Hello YouTube, Mobalythics made a how to play Kha Zix jungle short guide, and I'm basically gonna be reacting to it, making sure that whatever they're saying is correct, and if they're saying something that's incorrect, then I'm gonna call them out on it. So yeah, quick 5-minute video, let's watch it.
Kha Zix is a monstrous assassin jungler capable of carrying games by himself with his unbelievable damage and...
First of all, we're just gonna start off. Now, I'm not sure what this means. I haven't really watched these Mobalythics shorts, guys, but if this means that he's hard in terms of difficulty, no, he is medium. He's not easy, he's not difficult. A hard assassin champion would be a champion like Kiana. And an easy jungle champion would be Nocturne or something, I don't know. Alex in between. His power spikes, yes, in mid lane or in mid game he's really strong. In early game, not so much. And this is correct, so.
Mobility. Kha can snowball games with ease, but does really struggle to do any kind of damage when he does get behind. Kha Zix
Struggles versus groups, not compared to other assassins, because he has his W and his R that can help him, so especially if you have R evolve. R evolve. Or W evolve. This helps him actually becoming a better assassin in grouping compared to other assassins. We are comparing Kha Zix as an assassin to other assassins. And assassins in general, yes, they struggle in groups whenever people are grouping up. But Kha Zix doesn't struggle in that sense if you just do R and W, well, which is a high elo playstyle. If you do Q and W, which is a low elo playstyle, yes, then you will struggle against grouping, but you still have the W evolve that can help both you and your team out winning the team fights. Weak went behind, that is correct. And poor versus tanks. I mean, I guess yes, but again, are we comparing it to other tanks? Then, I mean, there are options. You can go Cyrilus Grots fairly early on. And then burst, yes, mobility, yes, damage, yes, snowball potential, 1v5, yeah, they're correct on all the strings. But in terms of the weaknesses, if you're comparing it to assassins, it's incorrect.
Teams who group up where he can't get that isolation damage. So for your runes, Dark Harvest is really the one you're going to benefit the most from.
You can go electrocute instead if you want to. Dark Harvest is also completely fine. So fine, 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 and fine. And then you can go sorcery second. And then you could go Gathering Storm instead of Water Walking, just for better scaling. So that is optional. So those are the only two things that, in my opinion, should change. And this is for a Q Evolve room page, which I recommend if you're playing below Diamond. You Q Evolve, play with this setup, and you'll generally be doing fine. Only thing you need to remember is this right here should be changed depending on what you're playing against. Are you playing against AD jungle, AD mid? So AD jungle and AD mid. Take armor. Are you playing against AP jungle and AP mid? You take MR. Are you playing against a mix? So either AD jungle and AP mid or the other. You take HP. And this goes for all junglers. Now for skill order, you start maxing your Q, then your W, then your E, and then you take your ulti. So for low elo, you would do Q here, W evolve here, E evolve here. For high elo, you do R, W, and then E. Low, high. There we go.
It helps you execute your enemies throughout the game, which is amazing alongside your isolated Q damage. After that, finish the domination runes off with damage and healing. For your secondary runes, grab yourself Absolute Focus and Water Walking for some more damage and movement speed. For your skill order, you want to max Q first. This is where the majority of your damage comes from. Then go for W, as you're likely going to be evolving that second, and it does some amazing damage in team fights. And then finally your E to finish. So for your mythic items, you can go for a Duskblade of...
This is for Q, R. evolve. This is fine, this is fine, this is bad, this is fine, this is fine. This is also fine. This is good as 5th or 6th item. 5th and also 5th item. Otherwise you just start with a hex shrinker, hold on to your hex shrinker and wait with upgrading it so you're done with your core items. And same thing go for executioners. You buy executioners early on, wait with upgrading it till 5th or 6th item, and then it's fine. So the only thing I don't like here is Collector, because Collector on Kha Zix is really bad.
Drakthar. This is amazing on Kha Zix as it complements his kit and playstyle so perfectly. It gives him a ton of lethality and burst, and also another stealth element alongside his ultimate. You can also go for an Eclipse, which gives lethality, movement speed, and a cheeky shield. And last but not least, there is also the extra option of Prowler's Claw, which isn't quite as popular, but some players can really abuse this item well with its inbuilt gap closer alongside its tasty burst. For some common options, Yumi's Ghostblade gives Kha Zix some tasty movement speed, allowing him to run at his opponents and take them out whilst also giving him tons more damage. Edge of Night will give Kha Zix a spell.
Can also, if you want to, you can go this as your first item. And go either of these as your second item. But again, Q, Q, R.
Shield, which helps him do his job a lot easier.
Age of Night, good against like CC, it's good against assassins basically. Collector, completely troll, stop mentioning it, stop talking about it, don't recommend it. Cyrilda's, it's your basic go-to third item, really good. GA, best armor item that you can get on Kha Zix.
Defensive options, a Guardian Angel is great in the unfortunate event that you do get taken out in a team fight. This will give you a second chance and allow you to get back in the fight and punish
X-Ranker, best MR item you can get.
Mortius is also going to help you out when you're versus lots of magic damage with its juicy shield. There are a few situational items as well. A Chempunk Chainsword is definitely necessary when you're versus heavy healing compositions, and picking up that early Executioner's Calling can be pivotal versus certain champions. Serpent's Fang is also a great pickup to burst through enemies with inbuilt or itemized shields. So against easier matchups, you can look to farm up for free and feel pretty confident walking around the map knowing.
So yes, Kha Zix runs against Lilia, Shyvana and Evelyn, and then harder matchups. I mean, yes, they're harder compared to the easier matchups, but you can win against Rek'Sai. It just comes down to how you mechanically play the 1v1. Against Zac, you pretty much just invade him, wait for him to waste his E onto a jungle camp, you kill him. Rammus, you pretty much just also invade on the first or second jungle rotation, and then you can win against him. Because these champions, I mean, the only champion that can kill you is Rek'Sai, and that comes down to mechanics. Zac is not gonna kill you because he's a tank. Ram is not gonna kill you because he's a tank. They don't have enough damage to kill you. So they're right in the sense that they use the term easier and harder, but if you want like some super hard matchups, Rengar is harder matchup. Elise, which is not meta, but harder matchup. Lee Sin. All these champions are almost impossible to win against if they know what they're doing.
That you should be able to outduel these junglers if you do come across them. Getting an early Oracle Lens will help you gank more effectively and may enable you to surprise and kill the enemy jungler from the fog of war. Remember that Kha Zix snowballs really well, so if you do get an early lead, the game's going to be pretty much over. Against harder matchups though, Kha Zix is very vulnerable whilst farming due to him losing that isolation damage as well as his main abilities being on cooldown. Make sure you don't get invaded by these junglers who can easily outduel you early game, and instead focus on getting.
How the fuck is Rammus going to invade me? Mobalythics. How the fuck is a Zac going to invade me? The only threat is the Rek'Sai. He's the only champion that you've mentioned out of the three that you have on screen that can invade. You will never see a Zac invading a Kha Zix. You will never see a Rammus invading a Kha Zix. Because it makes no sense. There's no logic behind it. They're tanks. They're trying to gank. They're not trying to get fed themselves. They don't need resources. They scale with levels and with items. Well, basically just levels.
Getting to that item power.
Oh, that is turbo troll to say.
Kha Zix doesn't actually offer any CC, but he does offer a ridiculous amount of damage. So if you pair him with any allied.
Yes, they're correct that CC is really good because it allows Kha Zix to gank more easily because he doesn't have any CC. And if Kha Zix has a lane with CC, Kha Zix provides the damage, the laner provides CC. It's pretty much a kill every time the enemy overstays or doesn't have flash.
Champions that bring
I agree on this.
Control make Kha Zix infinitely harder to deal with. For your jungle pathing, Kha Zix can actually get to level 3 really quickly by prioritising isolated camps like either buff or gromp. This can allow him to gank really quickly and surprise enemies early on. For example, on blue side you can go for red buff, then raptors, and then gromp for a super fast level 3 and gank as early as 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
This is not a good pathing. Instead, generally speaking, level 3 ganking as Kha Zix is not that good. It comes down to very, very specific situations, but do red buff. So we will do 1 red buff, 2 blue, 3 grump, then gank top. If we want to. I don't recommend it, because Kha Zix mostly just wants to farm. Just pretty much like most other junglers in the current meta. Now the Kha Zix is a meta jungler, but a lot of the current meta junglers wants to farm.
They'll go for red buff, raptors, blue buff, grump, and then wolves, and then head to scuttle crab for your level 4.
Oh, it's 1 month old. That's why they're saying that. Yeah, that clearly doesn't work either anymore. The video is from 1 month ago.
Grump for a super fast level 3 and gank as early as 2 minutes and 4. Then head to scuttle crab.
So you would do... if you want to play for top, you would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 either here or here. But this is really slow. This is a slow clear, because Kha Zix clears super slowly. Usually it's better to start on blue, because you can clear like your blue side camps easier compared to the red side ones. But I would say if you have a good matchup, you shouldn't really be clearing too much. You shouldn't full clear, you should just invade level 3 on enemy second buff. Or start on enemy buff. That can also work.
Or even go buff, then grump, then buff if you want to gank early. So in the early game, as Kha Zix, you aren't quite as strong as you want to be yet, due to gaining so much damage and threat from just a few items and evolved abilities. Make it your main priority to get that early damage item as quickly as possible, but still contribute to ganks early on with your gap closer in your E and your Q dealing some decent damage. Once you get your ult...
Yes, if the gank is free, go for it, but don't sit and try and look for ganks that aren't really gonna work or requires like insane setup.
You've become so much harder to deal with due to being able to bypass wards with yourself.
Yep, first pass by level 6, I agree.
You also gain a lot of power when you hit level 6 due to evolving your Q. Most Kha Zix players in Season 11 are evolving Q and then W, then E or R depending on the preference.
Depends if we're including high elo or not. If we're talking about high elo specifically by itself, most people are evolving R. If we talk about as a whole, there are a lot more low elo players, so yes, that's why Q evolve is more common than R evolve. But people do not do Q, W, and R. It's very rare, and it's more of a unique playstyle rather than the most common one. People do Q, W, E.
You can absolutely shred scuttle crabs and objectives like dragon early on, so make sure you're abusing this.
Especially if you have Q evolve.
In team fights, it's going to be your main job to assassinate as many high value targets as possible.
Yep.
Try and find enemies when they're isolated and burst them down before they even have a chance to react. As Kha Zix, it's vital that you're setting up vision denial to catch split targets, or look to flank and get behind teams so you can assassinate their high value targets.
Yep.
Remember to utilize your stealth to get in and around fights as you see fit, as this is key to staying alive alongside dealing your maximum damage.
Yep.
You also want to avoid enemies with high crowd control or high peel, unless you can catch them out alone. These are the main types of opponents that can deal with you, unlike those
avoid enemies with high CC, yes. Avoid champions with peel, no. Because if they're isolated, you just one-shot the peeling champion. If you're playing against the Lulu Kokmov, and the Kokmov is not isolated, but the Lulu is, you one-shot the Lulu, and then you can eventually kill the Kokmov afterwards, because now the Kokmov doesn't have a champion that can buff him and shield him and give him HP and all that stuff.
Fragile carries. Just a quick few tips to finish off. Kha Zix can deal bonus magic damage due to his passive Unseen Threat, which procs when an enemy loses sight of him or when he uses his ultimate. You want to try and abuse this for your optimal burst damage. You can use your Q whilst flying towards your target in your E. This is going to save time and increase your burst damage overall. Remember that if you're in the explosion radius of your W, it actually heals you too, which can be crucial when an enemy loses sight of him or when he uses his ultimate. You want to try and abuse this for your optimal burst damage. You can use your Q whilst flying towards your target in your E. This is going to...
I forgot to mention, E has to be evolved to be able to do Q mid-air. You cannot do it with regular E, so that means at level 16 you can do it, because that's when you evolve your E. And then you can Q mid-air. You cannot Q mid-air with basic E.
Save time and increase your burst damage overall. Remember that if you're in the explosion radius of your W, it actually heals you too, which can be crucial.
It's not stacking, so I don't know why they're showing 3 champions, because you can only heal on 1 champion.
Crucial in those early skirmishes and duels, or key to staying alive and winning team fights. That's going to wrap up our short guide on Kha Zix. We hope it helped, and we'll see you again soon.
I mean, most of the stuff they said was correct, but again, they're not 100% correct on everything, and they're missing out on a lot of information and not being very specific, so above average video. I mean, it doesn't hurt to watch it, but you shouldn't take everything like super serious and follow it like to the small details. Again, do your own research, and yeah, but that's the video. If you enjoyed it, then remember to leave a like, and if you have any questions regarding the stuff that I mentioned, why I don't think you should buy a certain item, evolve, playstyle, whatever it might be for Kha Zix, leave it in the comment section down below, and I can go more in depth and try and explaining it in a different way. And otherwise, I hope you guys want to subscribe to the channel, because more videos coming out soon. And I hope to see you guys in my next YouTube video or on my next live stream on Twitch. So see you guys.